The Super Type Legends debuted on OPTC Global on the 29th of September 2020. This Sugo-Fest celebrated the 10.0 update, which introduced the mechanic of Super Types to the game. On the Japanese version of One Piece Treasure Cruise, this was their anniversary celebration, which built new levels of hype. Characters in this batch included Tony Chopper, Celebrate the Astonishing Cruise; Nami, Celebrate the Astonishing Cruise; Don Quixote Doflamingo, Hope Crushing Heavenly Demon; Kami Eneru, Merciless Lightning; Trafalgar Law, Life's Desire; Boa Hancock, Dedication to Straw Hat Luffy. And the Sugo-Fest exclusive we'll cover today was the headliner of the celebration with a powerful mono-strength type captain focusing on granting a high chain boost, along with a special that would provide a color affinity boost for multiple stages. Introducing Sabo, Fiery Bond. In this series, we'll be traveling back in time to experience some of the older Sugo-Fest exclusive characters in their prime, aiming to show just what it was like to use these characters on their debut. I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's enter the Legends of OPTC. So thank you very much for checking out yet another episode of the Legends of OPTC, and in this video we are going to be looking at the next edition of characters to drop in the Super Type celebration. So we've already talked about Luffy, we've talked about Katakuri. Let's go back to the Strength type now with Sabo. So this is his unevolved artwork, of course, and here he is. This guy actually has a super evolution. A little bit of a weird one with him is that he actually pivoted from being a strength unit super evolving into a psi type character. Most of his abilities are relatively similar, but he actually did change typings, which was a bit of a weird choice for him considering the whole point of his celebration was having strength type super type and then an int type super type. And it was just weird for him to change typing into psi. The character doesn't really see much play anymore, but let's actually go ahead and break down exactly what he does. So he is a free spirit fighter, strength unit, of course. Now he does have level limit break. We're not going to be covering level limit break in this video. We're just looking at the base form of the character that you would get. So his captain ability would give strength characters 4 times attack, 1.2 times HP, and then also boost chain multiplier growth rate by 1.5 times, as well as recovering 0.5 times his recovery at the end of every turn every time you hit a perfect. So when you actually use this guy, I mean, back in the day where you couldn't actually put 100 cotton candy on each individual stat, a lot of people would opt to put recovery candy on him just to make this healing from his captain effect more potent. But realistically speaking, you weren't really going to be using Sabo as a captain all that often anyway, so I guess it really didn't matter. The chain multiplier growth rate component of his captain was really strong, partnering that with the 4 times captain. Still not as good as Luffy though, because Luffy could potentially reach that 5 times attack boost if you had a strength or a recovery slot, which is much easier to do and would just overall give you more damage. But you know, obviously if you have the really high chain and the base attack to your strength units, yes, it can obviously give you decent damage, but the fact that Luffy was he just had a better captain, honestly. He just straight up did. Moving on to the special though, his special ability, unlike Luffy, was focusing on color affinity. So it's a 2 times color affinity for 1 turn for your strength allies. And if during the turn you activate the special, you hit 3 perfects, you get a further 2 times color affinity boost in the next turn. And also after 1 turn has passed, you add 1.0 to the chain multiplier. So essentially what you want to do is activate, you know, if you know that stage 5 is the final boss and you want to get the most out of it, you would activate this on stage 4, hopefully hit 3 perfect hits to then trigger the color affinity and the chain boost in the following turn. That's essentially how he would work. So nothing really too crazy. The thing about it is of course it's a color affinity boost, which means you only get the benefits of it if you actually have type advantage. Obviously there are ways to kind of abuse this, which we'll be talking about in this video, but still, Sabo is just a really finicky character to use as a captain. Most of the time he was relegated to literally only being used against Dex content, which did feel kind of bad. To activate his super type, you just needed one of the following units: Luffy, Ace, Koala, or Rebecca, so pretty easy. And then it would give you a 1.25 chain multiplicative growth rate increase and adds 100 times his attack on top of tap timing bonus damage for 1 turn, as well as giving strength characters super strength. So this obviously made great use as his captain, as he naturally gives you high chain multiplier growth rate. If you activate this, you get even more chain multiplier growth rate. You have the special, which can give you chain addition. So you can see what's going on here. Lots of chain focused stuff in color affinity. It's just that this only really helps you if you actually have type advantage. Whereas like Luffy, even if you don't have a full team of type advantageous units, he still has like an orb boost and an attack boost in his special and his super type, which could help most teams. Whereas this is more like it only really helps you against type advantageous content, which is why a lot of people didn't really care about Sabo all that much. Even though, you know, Sabo is a fan favorite character, his abilities were not great on release, but hopefully we can go ahead and use him to the best of our ability in this video. My plan here is to go ahead and use him with Douglas Bullet. Fantastic combo with Douglas Bullet. When we actually covered Luffy's video, we did also use Bullet as a friend captain for that content. And I feel like we're going to do the same thing here because Bullet was just like the best friend of Sabo. If you ever wanted to use Sabo as a captain, Bullet was pretty much the best unit to use as a friend, as all of Sabo's abilities would always work with Bullet, as he is super effective against all types. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into some content with Super Type Sabo. Okay, so we are now in game with Super Type Sabo. Now, of course, we are going to be using the friend captain Bullet. It does have level limit break, but I don't think it's really going to matter. We're probably still going to clear this even without him having level limit break. And we are using the super evolution of Vivi and Rebecca. Also doesn't matter because, I mean, let's be real, they didn't even receive much of a buff from their 6+ anyway. It's pretty redundant. Doesn't really matter. But the fact that we have that on the team is pretty good because it means that we have a Rebecca, which does trigger the super type of Sabo. We do actually have quite a lot of supports on this team as well. We'll kind of discuss them as we go along here. We are using some pretty obscure characters, but it's all for a very good reason. So let's go ahead and jump into this one. And of course, you know, being able to use Douglas Bullet as a friend captain, just a phenomenal unit, being able to be super effective against all types. And I feel like, considering how good Douglas Bullet was on release, I do feel like they don't like to give us characters that have the ability to be super effective against all types. At least, if they do give it to us, that you have to jump through like 10 different hoops in order to get it. I know that as of the recording of this video, I'm recording this during the middle of the 11th anniversary celebration. And obviously we just got St. J. Garcia Saturn. And he does have an ability to be super effective against all types, but it does require you to have you know, the right character tags on the team. You need to be able to have a 10 times attack boost, which is not easy to get. With double Saturn, you can't really get it unless if you have the right cost on your team, which is very, very difficult to do. So, yeah, like, just for him to get access to it is really annoying. I know that there's been other characters like the Germa crew character, the Psy unit, which can super switch, they can switch into the captain position, and then they can get access to rainbow damage, which I guess is kind of cool, but it's just a very uncommon thing. We don't get characters that have the ability to be super effective against all types very often. Mainly because that ability to do that is just absurdly broken. Anyways, though, we've done enough stall. Let's go ahead and reach Battle 3, where we have our Kanjuro. Now, Kanjuro here is going to bind our crewmates, which is why we have the support of the Straw Hat Pirates. It's going to remove that for us. We are inflicted with Slot Bind. It's only for 1 turn, which is fine, because we should be able to kill here. Now, we are going to use the Chopper special. Chopper is actually important. It doesn't specifically have to be this Chopper, but it has to be a unit that makes slots count as beneficial for more than 2 turns. Reason for that is because on the next stage, there is going to be an effect that can make slots badly matching, and we want to basically avoid that. We can go ahead and switch over to Vivi as well, which does have a bit of a conflicting effect with Sabo. Sabo wants you to gain as much chain as possible, whereas this effect that Vivi and Rebecca give you is essentially locking the chain at a set value. It's not really going to be that bad because we are using only 1 Sabo. When you use double Sabo, the chain will ramp more efficiently, which means chain locks hurt you more, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal anyway. So let's go ahead and get through this, finish with Bullet, and hopefully get the job done. Sweet, sweet, and you see the healing coming in there from Sabo. Heal is for 7,100, or well, it's healing plus the host ship on top of it. The host ship is a great combo with this Sabo. So here we have Dogstorm. So Dogstorm and Kinemon, these guys are really annoying here. So these guys here, they both have 4.3 million. They give us 6 turns of despair, which goes down to 3 with our sockets. 3 turns of attack down, which is why we have Jinbei on the team, and we get all of our slots changed into badly matching. And that doesn't really matter for us because of the way that Douglas Bullet works. Douglas Bullet will make those slots matching. So that's going to be great. So we're going to go ahead and use the, let's use the special ability of Sabo first. So Sabo's special here is going to give us a color affinity buff. And remember, when we hit 3 perfects during this turn, when we move on to the next stage, we get color affinity again. And we also get a chain addition buff, which is great. With the support also of Koala, which will move 2 turns of that despair away. And then we can go ahead and use the Jinbei special. As we mentioned, Jinbei is here to remove 3 turns of attack down. And then with the support of Opera, removes a further 2 turns of despair, allowing our characters to be undespaired. We have the full board of matching slots now. And then finally, we'll go ahead and finish off with Douglas Bullet, because he is going to help us clear this stage much more efficiently with that effect that he does. So essentially, however much damage Douglas Bullet does, then he multiplies it by like 2 or 3 as AoE damage. So yeah, just an absolute beast of a unit. So now what we do is we try and hit at least 3 perfects, finish with Douglas Bullet, and then if there are enemies left remaining, then they are just going to die from Douglas Bullet's effect. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Douglas Bullet is just that guy, you know, he's just that guy. Alright, moving on to the boss stage. I did actually make a little bit of an error. I was supposed to switch Vivi and Rebecca back to Vivi so that we can switch into Rebecca on this final stage. Don't really think it's going to matter because, you know, with the way that all the buffs that we're going to have, it shouldn't really be that big of a problem. Okay, so he does have 5 turns of % damage reduction, which is why we have the Vivi and Rebecca. First of all, we'll switch over to Arlong, or switch from Arlong to the crew. We get that very minor 88 base attack buff. We use the special ability here, which will give the 2 turns of cooldown, and it also gives that attack boost for our crew. And then we will go ahead and get that Akainu support here, which gives us a full board of strength slots. Of course, if you do any special damage to him, he does react to that. Now, we do have that really significant chain reduction, which is why we're going to switch to Vivi. We probably should have done it so that we switched into Rebecca on this final stage. Shouldn't really be a problem. We do still have the color affinity from Sabo, so the special ability here of Vivi and Rebecca, which also gives color affinity, but it's only to Cerebral and Striker characters, doesn't matter because we're still going to have the effect from Sabo that gave us earlier. And then finally, just to wrap it up, let's activate the super type. So now all of our characters that are strength will get a 1.25 times increase to their color affinity against characters that they are advantageous against. So with all of these buffs, we should have enough damage in order to get through. So let's go ahead and do it. Alright, didn't even have to finish with Douglas Bullet. That was more than enough damage. Very, very comfortable clear. No issues whatsoever. So, Sabo is a little bit more of a difficult character to showcase because he's only really good in situations where you actually have type advantageous effects. But either way, it was still really cool to get this one done. So there we go, another episode of the Legends of OPTC in the books. Next week's episode should be a lot more fun to go ahead and showcase, as we are going to be covering Super Type Blackbeard. Now that character was a very, very good character on release. Very much looking forward to showcasing him next week, so we'll try and figure out some interesting use cases for him. But hopefully you enjoyed this video today showcasing Super Type Sabo. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.